Hi everyone, my name is Zach Carnazes. I'm a disability advocate, wheelchair user, journalist, musician, and artist based in San Francisco. And I have been working with some folks in the disability community on the issue with PG&E and trying to access backup battery sources for our disability aids, many of which are life-saving and very essential, as well as other vital needs for the disabled community and seniors during these extreme wildfires that you're seeing in California. One of the people that has been holding their feet to the forest fire, as it were, is a woman named Alice Stebbins. And she's the acting, or was the acting director of the California Public Utilities Commission. Kind of one of the few people that was really fighting to get the disabled our backup battery systems that we need to keep our life-saving medical equipment functioning. And she became a whistleblower, speaking out against hundreds of millions of dollars that were not being collected from utilities companies and making some powerful enemies in the process. So I'm here with Karl Olsen, who's the attorney representing Alice Stebbins, who is the current, or was the current, executive director of the California Public Utilities Commission. I'm a disability advocate and journalist based in San Francisco, and the disability community has been working together to support Alice Stebbins, who has been a vocal supporter of our community for a while and has been a whistleblower of various unscrupulous activities with PG&E and misappropriation of funds and other concerning features of our public officials holding or not holding accountable PG&E for their felony involvement with wildfires, rolling blackouts, and rolling brownouts. Thanks, Mr. Olsen, for being here today. My question for you is, what can the general public, and especially seniors and those of us with disabilities, do to support Ms. Stebbins and hold PG&E and the Public Utilities Commission accountable for the wrongdoing that has been happening? And maybe you could give us a little bit of background on where the case is so far.
Yeah, so people can write emails to the members of the commission, and I think you have their email addresses, so they can write emails to the members of the commission. There are 5 members, urging them not to fire Ms. Stebbins, telling the members of the commission what an excellent job Ms. Stebbins has done. And they can also make public comment at the next meeting or meetings of the commission. They were originally going to hold a hearing on August 6th to fire Ms. Stebbins. We demanded a public hearing, and then they rescheduled it to the 17th, which is today. And then late Thursday, they told us that they were going to postpone it. We don't know why they postponed it. It's apparent to us that Marybel Batjer, who's the president of the PUC, is on a vendetta against Ms. Stebbins. Ms. Stebbins blew the whistle on the fact that the PUC had not collected $200 million in fees, basically unpaid IOUs from utilities, much of it water utilities. And Ms. Stebbins brought that to the attention of the commissioners, and the commissioners haven't done anything to try and collect that money. So at a time when there are rolling blackouts and brownouts and there's $200 million that they could be collecting, all President Batjer is doing is just basically trying to call in a bunch of favors from politicians, many of whom have gotten money from PG&E, to try and get rid of somebody that was doing a great job. It's unbelievable. It's totally unbelievable. You got somebody that's doing a great job, that's blowing the whistle on $200 million, and they're trying to fire her when they got all these important issues that they could be dealing with. I've never seen anything like this.
It is really concerning, and I know that disabled folks in Sonoma County and possibly other counties were getting warnings of rolling brownouts as of today, August 17th. We already had some yesterday, and so it looks like we're going to be getting more of those. Um, I noticed, I think before we were on record, you mentioned something about doing some interesting work on public records requests. Can you tell us what you've done in that arena for this case?
Yeah, so we've made a request to each of the five commissioners for all their emails and texts about trying to fire Ms. Stebbins, and all their emails and texts with PG&E and AT&T in the last year. And we think that when they provide us these records, assuming they don't just destroy them, which would be illegal, that it's going to show just an extraordinary campaign among the commissioners to try and get rid of Ms. Stebbins. And their violation of open meetings laws in this case has just been egregious. Um, you know, at least three of the members of the five-member commission, which obviously is the majority, have told Ms. Stebbins that they already made up their mind to fire her. They wanted to force her out. They wanted her to resign. And she bravely refused. And she went public, you know. And it takes a lot of courage to do that.
It
But
takes a
they,
lot of
they
guts.
told her that they had already made up their mind and they hadn't had any noticed meetings about firing her. So this is a blatant violation of the Bagley-Keene Act. And the night before what was going to be the August 6th meeting when the axe was going to fall, two of the members of the commission texted Ms. Stebbins at about 8:30 or 9 p.m. And they told her, you got to resign. The fix is already in. We've already made up our mind to get rid of you. And that's just not the way that people such a powerful commission should be behaving. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. And we're going to try to hold them accountable. We're not going to allow this illegal activity to occur. And it should be noted that President Batjer is no stranger to illegal activity and to strong arming people. When she was the vice president at Harrah's, the big casino company in Nevada, she basically wrote emails to all of their thousands of employees telling them who to vote for Senate in an election. So Ms. Batjer has no shame. She's a lawbreaker, and her attempt to get rid of Ms. Stebbins must be seen in that light. Ms. Stebbins is not a politician. She's somebody that went into public service 33 years ago to do the right thing. Ms. Batjer, on the other hand, is just somebody that believes in pulling strings, who believes in having all the power. She wants to basically centralize it so that she can be both the president of the PUC and the executive director. And there's supposed to be a division between those two roles. The executive director is supposed to do the work, and then you have a commission overseeing it. But Ms. Batjer doesn't seem to like that division. She wants to have all the power. And right now she owns everything that's going on in the PUC, and it's not a pretty picture.
Yeah, that consolidation of two roles into one, that consolidation of power you're describing, seems especially concerning when PG&E is found guilty of so many crimes. It seems that there needs to be more oversight and more of a democratic process than what's currently happening. Can I ask you, is right now, is that the current situation? Is Miss Batjer playing the role of president and executive director, or is that something you see happening in the future?
Well, they have put Ms. Stebbins on, quote, administrative time off. So they basically, she's been completely sidelined. And without her, the only person that's really running the show is President Batjer.
Wow. So they haven't even appointed like an interim replacement while Miss Stebbins is on leave. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
That is concerning. This public records or this records request that you've done for private text messages, phone calls between PG&E and AT&T and the commissioners of the Public Utilities Commission. This is interesting to me because I didn't know that could actually be something that a court could require to be released. Do you know if that will be released to the public or if that's part of the case in like a private way? And what do you think would be uncovered as far as, and I guess that would be some speculation on your part, but I'm curious why you made that request, if you can say a little more about what you're hoping to find with that request.
Well, there is a California Supreme Court decision from 2017 in a case that I argued to the Supreme Court. The case is called City of San Jose versus Superior Court. And that case holds that when a public official discusses public business, even if they do it on their own phone, their own so-called personal phone, it's a public record. So we made this Public Records Act request, and if and when they turn it over to us, the public will be able to see it too. We're going to share the fruits of what we get with the public, because we want the public to be able to know, the communications they've had with PG&E and the communications that they've had in which they have apparently decided that they want to fire Ms. Stebbins. They should have nothing to hide. But, unfortunately, a lot of public officials, they seem to forget that they're working for the public. And especially at the PUC, this is an agency that has a long, long history of being extremely cozy with the utilities, especially PG&E. It seems like when PG&E says jump, the commissioners say how high. And it should be the opposite. They're supposed to regulate PG&E. PG&E has a monopoly, and the PUC is the only agency that can really hold them accountable. And Ms. Stebbins was trying to do that. And while she was trying to do that, Ms. Batjer, who has a long history of being very cozy with industry, she was a top executive of Harrah's, the big casino company in Nevada, and, she's apparently just trying to treat the PUC like it's a big casino. And, that's not the way it's supposed to work. I'm sorry, they're supposed to regulate private companies. They're not supposed to do the bidding of the private companies, and they're not supposed to aid and abet felons like PG&E.
That's what democracy is all about. And I sure, for one, agree with you. I think it's wonderful that you're going to be accessing these public records and that there's this work being done for transparency. I'm personally a big advocate for transparency in our public office, and I think that's really wonderful. When you say that PG&E are felons, could you tell me a little more about how many? If PG&E was a person, it's a company, private sector, or I guess it's a mix between public private sector. It's kind of confusing for me what their role is legally there. Feel free to clarify that. But I'm also curious, how many felonies has PG&E been found guilty of?
85. And, they caused the explosion in San Bruno. they caused, the fires in the North Bay and elsewhere.
And these were found guilty by a federal judge. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's a judge in San Francisco, a federal judge named William Alsop, and he's done just great work of holding their feet to the fire in the probation proceedings. If they were a person, these folks would be doing some serious prison time, but they're not a person. And so I think they paid like a fine of $3 million, which is like, that's a rounding
Right,
error.
for the San Bruno explosion. I read about that when it happened in 2010 that killed 8 people because the was a gas line that blew up under some houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they only had to pay $3 million for killing 8 people. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now, the settlement in the wildfire litigation is a lot higher. I think it's like $13 billion. But, you know, there's just this long history of PG&E never being held accountable. And Ms. Stebbins was trying to change that. She's been trying to be tough on PG&E. And what does she get for that? They try to fire her.
Try to fire her. Yeah, that sounds really wrong. And I know for folks like myself in the disability community, we are more reliant on gas and electric than other citizens who don't need electricity for their everyday survival. Personally, I use an electric mobility wheelchair, and if I don't have electricity, if there's a blackout, it's like I don't have legs. I literally can't go anywhere. And then, of course, there are people who rely on electricity for breathing machines and things that literally keep them alive. And I know there's cases where power shutoffs have happened and disabled people have just slowly died in their homes as a result. Um, do you know? Do you know of anything that's being done to? Because I'm really concerned that the past 2 days we've been seeing rolling brownouts happen, especially in Sonoma County. Do you know of anything that's being done to like notify people in advance of these brownouts and blackouts?
I don't know that they're doing anything. Um, I don't know what's being done. And and that's troubling. I mean, what you've just said is extremely troubling and scary and tragic. And there should be somebody advocating for the disabled community like Ms. Stebbins was. But when your fate is in the hand of Marybel Batjer and PG&E, that's a pretty scary thing.
Yeah, well, it sounds like as a community, if we can support Miss Stebbins, we would actually be supporting ourselves. And just returning finally to my initial question, if you can remind us all, what are the best ways that we can support Miss Stebbins, who in turn is supporting the disability community, who in turn is supporting the taxpayers, holding PG&E accountable, whistleblowing for the misappropriation of not collecting funds, this $200 million, as I read, that was not being collected from the utilities companies. What can we do as the general public? Obviously, I'm not a politician. I can't get Governor Newsom on the phone, you know, on my cell phone, right? So what can we do again? If you can just remind us, what are some steps we can take to help Miss Stebbins and the work that you're doing for transparency and improvement in our public utilities?
Write letters, write emails, and I hope that you'll tell your listeners the email addresses, or you'll circulate the email addresses of the 5 commissioners and send a very clear message. Don't fire Alice Stebbins. Hold the utilities accountable. Collect the $200 million that Ms. Stebbins told you about that's owing to the PUC, and don't go on a witch hunt against a whistleblower. Do your job and keep Alice Stebbins and let her do her job that she was doing so well, and speak up at all of the next meetings. Because when people speak up and when people speak truth to power, it can have an influence.
Very well said. I plan on posting this video, this interview, and I'll put in the description, if you're watching this, viewers, I will put information for how to attend the next upcoming public meetings, for how to sign up and be on the outgoing emails to organize and support Ms. Stebbins and keeping our public officials and our utilities companies accountable. I really want to thank you for your time, Mr. Olsen. I think you've been very clear in what is on the surface seems like a complex issue really isn't. And I really enjoy hearing from you because I think you have a way of boiling down the facts in a way that's really clear cut. And I, for one, appreciate it. And I think our listeners and viewers will appreciate that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Zach. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Power outages put people with disabilities at huge risk of damage or even loss of life. We want to thank Ms. Stebbins for all of her work on our behalf and hope that she can continue to represent us.
The role of the Commission is to conduct fair and ethical, proper oversight of private for-profit utilities and hold them accountable in the public, not personal interest. In the public interest, you should not even consider firing Alice Stebbins. Given the amount of media and press on the commingling of past and present special interest matters by the dysfunctional CPUC, it would appear that any firing of Alice Stebbins, to me, is likely personal, part of dirty politics, and would just be part of the long-term dysfunction of the PUC and their compromised acceptance and intermingling with utility lobbyists, which itself should be what needs investigation, auditing, and correction for the benefit of the public.
We didn't have any electricity until 11 p.m. that night, 5 hours without electricity. And interestingly enough, I don't understand how the CPUC can be watching over those folks when I get a notice the next day from PG&E saying, oh, we didn't have to notice you because the rolling brownout is not a PSPS. Well, for those people in California that depend on consistent electricity, President Batjer, it didn't make any difference on Friday when that electricity went out, not as a rolling blackout, but as a complete blackout for 5 hours.
This having quite a history dating back to the 2010 San Bruno explosion that PG&E caused, which killed 8 people. And PG&E got a little tiny slap on the wrist, $3 million fine for killing 8 people. And I'm wondering what this commission was doing about that and what they have been doing about the 2017 and 2018 massive wildfires that PG&E has caused, which have caused many, many, many deaths. I really am concerned that this commission is in the pocket of PG&E, is in the pocket of moneyed interests, and is not doing their due diligence to have an unbiased and just oversight of a clearly corrupt department that is costing California's lives. I mean, lives, we are dying out here. It is not just, I can't watch YouTube or I can't watch Netflix.
And we do have a voice, and it does matter. And that's how democracy works, folks.